Most characters in Jujutsu Kaisen can be summed up in a single word. Choso is a brother. Maki is a sister. Gojo is the unadulterated, pure personification of strength. Toji is rebellion, given form. Nanami is maturity, in the shape of a blonde salaryman. However, for the longest time, I always wondered what word would best describe Yuji Itadori. Protagonist, boring, simple. I've never been the biggest fan of Yuji, but going through these light novels has really changed my perception of him as a character, and after reading these stories in this book, watching the anime, reading the manga, playing the games, the word that I would use to describe Yuji is simply kindness. The final story of the first light novel is what we will be discussing today, and as you can tell, despite it being pretty short and sweet, it really changed my opinion on Yuji. Like most of the other stories in this book, it takes place during the gap in time in which Yuji is believed to not be alive and is being hidden from the higher-ups. The story specifically takes place somewhat in the background, starting just before Yuji's resurrection is revealed and ending just before the Goodwill event starts. At night, Yuji goes for walks in residential areas since he wants some free time to himself, but he can't just go out during the day since he is still currently KIA to the Jujutsu Tech heads. But whilst going on one of these walks, Yuji comes across a lone boy on a swing who seems to be haunted by a strange curse. But that's enough of the synopsis. Let's just get into story number 5, the final story of the first light novel, Illusory Trek to the Guardian Demon. The story here starts on a late night. We follow Yuji walking alone through a nearby bedroom village, a residential area away from the noise of the main city. You see, Gojo told Yuji that he was going to reveal to the world that Yuji had been resurrected very soon, so Gojo wasn't too worried about Yuji going out on his own for walks in the nearby area. This area itself was relatively quiet during the day, so at night it was almost completely empty, and on this specific occasion, Yuji was going for a walk around 9 PM. The moon was high, and there wasn't a person in sight. Page 107. Itadori had died once, but after his long period in hiding, simply taking a walk for no specific purpose felt luxurious. Yuji spent a good amount of time simply walking around the area, thinking to himself, enjoying the peace and quiet that these streets provide. But he's already been walking for a while now, so he decides to head back. He tries taking a different path back to where he came from. However, in doing so, he comes across a simple park. Yuji is mildly surprised that there is a park here and continues to walk home until he hears a creaking coming from the park. A swing, actually. He sees a small figure using the park's swing on his own. And remember, Yuji came out here late at night, specifically to avoid people and getting recognized as Sukuna's vessel. So what is someone doing late at night on the swings all by their lonesome? Page 108. A small form sat there swinging back and forth in the glow of an old streetlight. He looks too mature for an elementary school student, maybe he's in junior high. As the boy swung, his naturally wavy hair, trimmed short, flipped back and forth. Of course, our main man Yuji, good-natured as he is, meets the boy with a smile and asks him what's up. Why is he here on his own in the park whilst it's still dark outside? Now, the thing here that I find funny is that the kid is initially weary of Yuji, as he looks like a common ruffian or hoodlum. Page 108 again. Itadori wore a uniform over his hoodie and had bleached blonde hair. The boy may have thought he had attracted the attention of a delinquent. However, when Itadori reached the streetlight, it revealed his face and his innate friendliness, and the boy's facial expression softened. Yuji then sits on the swing next to the boy. Page 109. I'm Kairi Minato. Cool name. My grandma who died last year said that people romanticize the ocean, so I'm named after it, the boy explained. The boy then recounts how his grandma said that she once clashed with a bear and won, to which Yuji smiles and replies that she must have had a strong personality. But the thought of losing a grandparent has his mind drifting for a moment to his own grandfather. Although his mind drifts slightly, he doesn't forget why he came over to the boy in the first place. Page 109 again. Well, your grandmother may have been cool, but your mom and dad may be stricter. It's pretty late. Aren't they worried about you? The kid freezes up. Yuji quietly remains on the swing, pushing his feet off the ground, gently swaying and allowing the young boy to get his thoughts together to reply. All the while, the nearby streetlights flicker and wane as the night grows darker. Eventually, though, the young Kairi manages to reply, saying that he can't go back home. Yuji then questions, why can't he go home? Is it too far? Is he afraid of the dark? Well, why can't he go home? Page 110. Will you promise not to laugh if I tell you? I won't laugh. After all, you aren't laughing about it. The seriousness of the boy let Yuji know that this isn't a laughing matter. To the scared child in front of him, this is very serious. So, Yuji patiently and intently waits for the kid to explain. Page 110 again. There's a demon there. A demon? It appears in the front of the house at night. It's only about this big though. Kairi cupped the air as though he were holding a beach ball. The way Kairi describes the scale of the demon with such a specific vision that it seems very clear that the child is visualizing something he's previously seen. It's not just his imagination running wild. Page 110 again. Kairi frowned apologetically. Totally unbelievable, right? No, I believe you. Huh? If you say there's a demon there, it's there, Itadori asserted. I can tell by looking at you, it's really bothering you. Sort of, anyway. You believe me? Yuji at this part in the story is relatively inexperienced, but he has still had a fair few run-ins with cursed spirits, so if this demon is a cursed spirit, which he believes it is, he thinks to himself that it's probably only a grade 3, given how Kairi described it as only being the size of a beach ball. Yuji then reaffirms the child by saying that he's seen a lot of similar things to the demon that Kairi is describing. He hops off the swing and asks Kairi if they should go check it out. Kairi is, of course, hesitant to the idea. Yuji then comforts him by saying that he'll be with him the entire time, and if things look really bad, they can just turn around and go back to the park. So the two start their little journey towards this supposed demon. But Yuji has a single thought in his head during this walk towards the child's demon. He's not thinking about looking cool in front of him. He's not thinking about a possible easy victory against a grade 3 spirit. He's not even thinking about fulfilling his role as a Jujutsu sorcerer. He's thinking something very simple. Page 111. It just sucks when you can't go home, he said. And as a result, the two have a brief 10-minute walk. Just to keep the two in high spirits, they talk about their favourite movies and manga. They pass the time with peaceful chit-chat until it's suddenly interrupted by their arrival at Kairi's humble abode. Page 111 again. One streetlight shone directly in front of the gate to a house. It was a simple house, deep blue with a triangular roof. As soon as it came into view, Kairi stopped walking. There it is. He spoke with a struggle through a dry throat. Instinctive tension froze his legs in place. Yuji steps in front of the boy, then turns his eyes to the doorway so he can place his eyes upon this demon. Page 111 yet again. A dark form sluggishly stepped from the shadow of the gateposts. Smaller than a human being, it lacked the charm of a small animal. It seemed unnatural, with a twisted external appearance that caused revulsion to well up from within Itadori's soul. Without a doubt, it was a curse. It cried out. It had two mouths where its eyes should be. Its nose looked to have been shaved off. It didn't have any ears, and its main mouth was sutured shut with stitches. Its body was composed of exposed muscle tissue, short legs and a small trunk, and long thick arms that ended in massive fists. Two distorted projections that looked like bundles of blood vessels extended from its temples like horns. No wonder Kairi thought it was a demon. This spirit, this demon, starts gnashing its teeth at the young Kairi. All three sets are gritted at the sight of this young child, so he cowers in fear. But Itadori steps in front to shield him. It seems that Yuji's initial assertion of the curse's grade was spot on. It looks to be nothing more than a simple grade 3 spirit, so dealing with it should be a pretty simple ordeal. And thus the curse leaps at him, but Yuji quickly evades, clenches his fists and gets down to business. Page 112. Seeing that simple attack as an opportunity, Itadori twisted and swung. He dodged the demon's fists, closed the distance, and drove his fist into its torso. Divergent fist. Kairi, though still nervous, thanks Yuji for his help, giving a brief bow to him before he walks inside his now demon-free home. Yuji is thankful that his long nighttime walk has come to an end, so he walks home and assumes that this was the last time he would need to help the young boy. However, a few days pass. Yuji naturally walks along the same path he did when he helped Kairi, passing through the same park in the process. But he sees a familiar sight. It's Kairi on that same swing set on his own, again in the middle of the night, wearing a similarly glum expression on his face. Yuji sees this child and approaches him again. He then in turn asks him what's wrong. He exorcised this spirit, the demon was dead. To which Kairi looks up at Yuji with a grim sadness across his face. So in response and disbelief, Yuji sprints towards the child's house. His heart is pounding as he reaches Kairi's home, not from overexerting himself, but from the alarm bells going off in his head. There it was, but it couldn't be. He exorcised it. There was no way a cursed spirit with that exact same form appeared in the exact same place as the one from a couple days ago. But Yuji thought maybe it was a strange coincidence until the spirit spoke. Without hesitation, Yuji repeats the process in an almost systematic way. The demon leaps, Yuji evades, and counters with a divergent fist. It was disturbing how easy the curse is dispatched. Page 115. Don't feel too bad about it, Itadori. Itadori spun around at the sound of the voice. He didn't need a mirror to know how confused he must have looked. Kairi? I doubt there's anything you can do. Itadori is understandably confused. The spirit may have come back, but he got rid of it again. What does he mean there isn't anything he can do? Page 15 again. Kairi looked up at the roof of the house. Itadori followed his line of sight and stared at the roof, and his eyes widened. I think the demon is guarding the house. It'll show up here over and over to drive away bad people. Yuji's eyes widen as he sees the figure he exorcised 2 times over, appearing yet again perched on the house's roof. But all of a sudden we then cut to a conversation between Yuji and Gojo. Yuji explaining the events of what had just transpired. Then Yuji proceeds to plead to his teacher for help. This is something that Gojo, with his years of experience and overwhelming strength, could solve in seconds. However, Gojo, in his sunglasses, wearing sweat clothes, reading a magazine, and eating daifuku, he refuses to help. Page 116. Then what? Gojo asked. There's no then what, Itadori said. Obviously, a demon that resurrects is beyond my ability. Shouldn't you come with me? Well, I'm busy. You don't look busy. Gojo was rolling around on the sofa, holding a magazine in both hands, kicking his legs, and somehow also eating daifuku. Then I'll ask Nanamine. Itadori sighed. Don't treat grade 1 sorcerers like your support center. Huh? Whilst this may seem cruel and unusual from our always jubilant Gojo, this attitude and seriousness is something akin to his conversation with Megumi. Page 116 again. That demon's a cinch to waste, right? It doesn't sound like this particular cursed spirit has a cursed energy over grade 3. There's no need for me to get involved, said Gojo. But it comes back no matter how many times I exercise it. There haven't been any casualties yet, but if we let it go, something bad might happen, and then it'll be too late. So exercise it until it doesn't come back anymore. If I could do that, there'd be no problem. Yuji. Gojo raised his face from the magazine and looked at Itadori from behind his sunglasses. He wasn't wearing his usual flippant smile. What do you think is the main reason people can't help other people? Yuji freezes at this question. He thinks of all the transfigured humans Mahito killed, the son at the detention center, people he couldn't save, times where he couldn't do anything. And so Gojo imparts some advice on his student. Page 117. Because they're weak? Gojo let out a faint sigh and stood up from the sofa. That's partially true, but strength and weakness aren't everything. Gojo only knew about the movie theatre and the incident at Satozakura High School from reports he heard. However, given the tragic events that had occurred and the harsh reality Itadori confronted, Gojo could imagine that the boy was bearing a painful burden. Yuji's head begins to hang low, trying to figure out what the hell Gojo means. Page 117 again. In this world, tragedies too often end in misery, even when it's possible to help. But the problem isn't a lack of strength or getting there too late. As Gojo passed Itadori, he patted him on the head without making eye contact. The main reason it happens is that people forget they have the strength to help. At those words, Itadori gasped and looked up. Gojo's words strengthen Itadori's resolve and leads him to take another look at the situation. Page 118. While we're at it, let's review one more thing. What is the number one thing that gives rise to curses? Negative emotions? If that's true, Gojo responded, then you already know the answer. Namely, that fighting and exercising aren't everything. And with that, Yuji rushes out with a stronger determination to get to the bottom of this demonic case, saying a quick goodbye to his teacher and rushing out the door within the same breath. As Yuji leaves, Gojo thinks to himself, page 118 again, it's easy to lend a hand to a child who has fallen, but it's a teacher's job to show a child how to stand up unassisted. It isn't always easy. Itadori's sincerity was a more significant attribute than his being Sukuna's vessel, and as a result, trauma had the potential to become a curse more fearsome than anything else. A nasty curse, preventable only by confronting one's heart. Instead of cradling that heart, Gojo could teach it to be prepared. That's what it means to raise students. It's much harder than teaching Jujutsu. Smiling despite his serious thoughts, Gojo downed the rest of his daifuku. Now with this newfound zeal, Yuji dashes towards Kairi's home. However, there is one minor issue. It's daytime, so when he arrives at Kairi's house, he is met by a very different figure to the one he repeatedly punched out of existence. It's seemingly the young boy's mother, or at least she appears to be. But as Yuji converses with her, he can see the look on her face and how she talks about Kairi. She truly cares for his well-being and wants to figure out why he won't come home at night. So Yuji explains that he is a friend of Kairi's, and as it turns out, this woman is Kairi's adoptive mother. You see, Kairi's grandmother recently passed away, and as a result, he's getting looked after by a couple who were friends of Kairi and his grandmother. Kairi's biological mother died in an accident, so the woman Yuji is speaking to is the boy's adoptive mother. She describes how she feels insecure about being Kairi's replacement mother, and then she proceeds to explain the origin of the demon that her adopted son has been seeing, even though she herself can't even see it. Page 121. The demon is kind of a fairy tale, his grandmother told him, or rather, a kind of warning fable. She said a demon would show up where bad children are. I suppose it's like a Namehage demon. Oh, the cool grandmother, Itadori said. Then all of a sudden we cut to hours later, with the sun setting. Yuji walks through the flickering streetlights, the sky growing darker and darker as the sorcerer approaches the all too familiar playground. Page 122. Sure enough, Kairi Minato was there. At the same time, in the same park, his gentle swinging causing the old metal to creak. Itadori, good evening. Yeah, hey. For a short while they simply swing, going back and forth, until Yuji asks if the demon is still at Kairi's house. He says it probably is. It always is. Yuji responds that he knows his grandmother is the one who told him about the demon. Page 122 again. Who told you that? Your mother. The resulting expression on Kairi's face was difficult to describe. He looked bitter, and also as if someone had prodded a wound. It was clearly an unpleasant topic for him, but Itadori continued talking. Sorry if you don't like to call her mother. Kairi replies that he just isn't used to his new family name. Yuji asks why he thinks that demon keeps appearing in front of his house. Kairi says it's because he's a bad kid. He didn't have any family left when his grandmother died, so his adopted parents took him in as they were friends of his grandmother. He thinks he's just a bother to them. They feed him and they send him to school. He feels he's a burden to them. So Yuji enlightens the boy on this cursed situation. Page 123. At last he sighed deeply and spoke. You put that curse there. Itadori looked directly at Kairi for the first time. And since you put it there, only you can get rid of it. Yuji warns Kairi that if they don't get rid of the demon, his adopted parents are in danger. They might get attacked if they don't do anything. Page 124. Your fear gave birth to that curse, Itadori explained. If you want me to shut up, fine. But if you want to go home, you gotta work with me before there's no place for you to go home to. Without skipping a beat, the two muster their courage and run towards the house, worries flooding the minds of these two, and those worries are given form when they see the demon's new form. Page 125. Seriously? It's getting bigger, Itadori exclaimed. They could clearly see it even from a distance. Try again. The body of the demon, the size of a beach ball, had now bulked up to the dimensions of a station wagon. Its hulking arms spread to block the street, and the two mouths in its eyeless face were baring and grinding their teeth menacingly. The boy's fear made the curse stronger, making it huge in comparison to its earlier state. That, in turn, makes Kairi fearful. He wants to turn away and run, but Yuji reminds him that he'll lose his home if he runs away. But Kairi right now is a deer in headlights. He is frozen. His instincts are screaming at him to run. But then he sees his adopted mother stepping outside the home, just behind the demon. Maybe her talk with Itadori inspired her to try and help her new son. But despite her inability to see curses, the demon turns its attention to her. Kairi takes off, running. But not to flee. He wasn't running away. He was running straight towards the demon, calling the woman in front of him Mom. Page 126. A shadow passed by Kairi as fast as the wind. Itadori was swinging his right fist packed with cursed energy. The demon didn't have time to dodge. Itadori was tearing across the asphalt at top speed and at close range. He leapt under the beautiful moon. With incredible momentum, his fist bashed into the demon's face. The demon's arms, now around as big as logs, swung in an arc, but were too late to stop Itadori's attack. Try. Cursed energy coursed through the demon's body. Despite its size, it dispersed quickly. Just like a popped balloon, it deflated and whooshed away. As if to make up for all the lost time Kairi spent on the swings, alone and in fear, he cries in his new mother's arms, simply exclaiming Mom, Mom, over and over again. The two tear-covered family members hold each other for a short while, until Kairi looks off to Yuji, says thank you very much, bows, and enters the house he was so afraid of alongside his mother. When the two were deeper inside the house, Yuji turned his view to the side of the road. He sees something the size of a beach ball rolling around. The demon was on the verge of death, the stitches across its mouth slowly coming undone. Page 127. Kairi is truly home now. When Itadori spoke, the demon's shoulders shuddered. Then with its face that was all mouths, the demon smiled broadly and vanished. With the curse exorcised, Yuji gives one final thesis behind the strange curse's abilities. Page 127 again. I think it was his grandmother, Itadori decided. He didn't have any proof, but if it were true, Itadori thought she must have been a cool grandmother. He thought her love and worry for Kairi must have outweighed all else. I need to make sure I don't make Grandpa worry either. Yuji thinks of his grandfather's final wishes. He had decided to live by the words his grandfather spoke. But he would not just do so for his grandfather. He will continue to fight, but also for Megumi, for Nobara, for people who need help. Page 128. As his resolve firmed, Itadori's feet turned toward home. Sometimes a detour leads you back to your rightful place. Itadori's long walk had finally ended. Overall, this story is a brief mission about our main man, Yuji, helping a grieving child get acclimated with his new adoptive family. The child's grief and his deceased grandmother's emotions that have been left behind become personified in the form of a demonic curse that haunts the boy. It made me have a little bit more appreciation for JJK's main character, and it made me even more excited to check out the light novel's second book. But with that being said, let me know if you enjoyed. Toodles my doodles, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Also, thanks to Orion for drawing this. Hell yeah, looks cool. Anyway, doodles.